Ever wondered how to get that painterly look to your images? Well, that's what I'm hoping to achieve today with this image that we shot on one of our workshops. This was our image all about fine art photography. And we were doing lighting and all sorts of different demo things in the studio, and it was loads of fun. So I'm now hoping to make this image have a little bit more of a painterly kind of feel to it. We already sort of created that with the lighting. So let's see what we can do. I haven't prepped, I haven't looked at this image, I haven't done anything whatsoever. I am looking for the first time with you guys today. So, the first thing I always try to do is my crop. I like to have a look at the crop, and I want to cut out everything down here. Feels very distracting. So I'm going to cut that out entirely. I want it to be a lot more of a sort of more Victorian portrait. Now, when I'm doing these kind of classical portraits, composition wise, I think it's very instinctive of us to try and crop in really tight. But something I look for is what I call the bridge. I call it the bridge. There's no reason for it to be called this by my insane head. But what I look for is essentially the same amount of space either side of the subject and just a slightly smaller amount coming on top. Because with that slightly smaller amount, it's like a bridge that kind of goes around them. You'll see in the raw files, I try to shoot like that as well with this kind of bridge mentality because I feel like it gives just enough space. It means I put them in the right part of the frame, putting them, even central. They're in the most complementary part of the frame. And using the rule of thirds, I could bring that down and have her eyes just onto that third. But you know what? I actually want that image to be a little bit taller. And that's just how I like it. So I'm quite happy with that as a crop. Firstly, colour is going to be very important in this image, especially with these beautiful mustardy tones. We've got that lovely bluey grey background that complements her eyes. Essentially, this image is already only two tones. It's got the blues, it's got the yellows, it's got the oranges. And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to play with. So I'm going to instinctively go to my colour balance and just sort of see that if I pull that out, I'm going to get a much colder and a very different vibe from those oranges. And you know what? I kind of like it. I like it cooler. I think I'm going to play with that. My gut instinct is to always go warmer, but with this, I'm enjoying the contrast. So let's keep that blue. I want to tone down the orange a little bit, make it a little bit more painterly. Now I could do that with my vibrance in here, but that's going to tone everything down, which is nice. It's not wrong. But I'm going to do it with my HSL down here. I've obviously got my hue, my saturation, and my luminance. If I go into my hue and play with those oranges, you can see everything's going to change. Skin tone, everything from there. If I play with those yellows, just mainly the top is going to change. I'm not looking at changing the hue. I'm looking at desaturating a little bit. So I'm going to desaturate those yellows just in here. And you can see if I put it all the way up, you can see it goes very bright. So I'm actually going to pull that all the way down. And it is going to affect things like hair and that as well. So you do have to bear that in mind. If you were playing with blues, it could affect the eye colour. I'm going to pull that orange down a tiny bit more. Because I think, that's nice. And it's, instead of doing the vibrance, I can control that image a little bit more, and I like that. I think that's looking nice. So the next thing I want to do, I want to add a bit of glow to the skin. So I'm going to do that with my brush. I'm going to just pull a little bit in here, just into this triangle. I'm just going to up my highlights a little bit, maybe a tiny bit on the exposure. Just bringing it into those areas where it naturally falls anyway. And I think that little hint of a glow is quite nice. I'm going to actually add it in on that bottom lip, a little bit on the nose, a little bit up the bridge of the nose. And then when I come out, we've got that real 3D kind of effect. Now I could use this brush to enhance the eyes, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually create a new mask and get it to select people. And Lightroom very cleverly finds it. We're going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on iris and pupil, and I'm going to create a mask that way. And I think that is going to let me control a lot more than if I just brightened them, because I want to brighten, but I actually, do you know what? I want to add a bit of blue. I want to add a little bit more color into this image. And I couldn't have done that on the other mask. So I'm going to up the contrast a tiny bit. I think that's looking quite nice. I love that. Let's just sort of enhance those eyes. Now, this depends. If you're looking at creating a work of art, you basically have creative free reign. You can do whatever you want with these images. It's however you want to do it. If you're being authentic to the person, I wouldn't recommend changing eye color. I wouldn't recommend doing too much that's not natural. It's my own personal sort of ethos, that. But this is a model called Francesca who I work with a lot. And she's very happy for me to do whatever I want. I can create her into some kind of crazy creation or just be very authentic to her. And on this one, I'm going to play around a bit. So I want my blue in my background to pop a bit more. I'm going to actually try select background. Now, this doesn't always do the best job. It's not bad, but if you do any massive changes, it's not always great. So I can see that's not done a bad job. I can see a little bit here that might be a problem, a little bit around the hair. But overall, I'm quite happy with that. All I'm going to do is do my temperature. Pull that temperature down a bit, add that bit of blue. I kind of like that. I think that's looking nice. Maybe a little bit less, but yeah. I think that's looking lovely. I'm very happy with that. Next, I think I'm going to play around with my colour a little bit more, see what we can do. So let's go have a look at the colour grading, my favourite bit. Now, first thing, if I don't know what I want to do exactly with the colour, I will just whack this circle in the middle somewhere, almost always on shadows. I always pick my shadows first, and just spin the dial until I like it and just see what we like. Now, I am being drawn to this tealy kind of colour. I like that. I do not want it to be this strong. So I'm going to pull that down this way a little bit. I'm going to raise my luminance. By raising the luminance in the shadows, it's going to lighten those shadows. So I want a slightly vintagey effect. Now, if I go into my highlights, because I'm in the teal, the oranges over here are going to be the most complementary colour. Now I'm going to bring it up this way a little bit to just that orange. And I'm going to lower the highlights just to flatten that image off a little bit, giving myself a very little painterly kind of feel. So now I've done that. I like that. I think I want more contrast. So let's add that shadows back in a little bit. I think that's looking nice. I like that. I like that colouring. Let's have a look. Before, after. I think I can bring a little bit of that luminance back in. That's looking nice. I like that colouring. Let's pull that down there a little bit. That's looking nice. So I'm going to add a bit of a vignette around the edges. I'm going to choose to do that with a mask. I'm going to get a radial and draw just around here. And I'm going to invert it using this little tick box at the top. By inverting it, I'm now only affecting the edge. I'm going to actually make the edges more blue, pulling that colour away from the orange, but unifying it with that background even more. I'm going to take that saturation down a tiny bit, and I'm going to pull that exposure down a tiny bit. And now I'm just drawing us into the middle of that image. I'll tell you what, let's put it up a little bit. There we go. I think that's looking nice. I like that. Okay, so we've done our face edit, we've done our eyes edit. We're looking at everything. There is a few things I will tweak in Photoshop, but overall, I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks great. I really like it. So that looks perfect. I hope you're happy. Can't wait to see everyone else's edits from the night. I think it was really exciting. It's definitely, this isn't the only colour scheme you could work from. I'd love to do one that's completely orange and warm toned as well. I think that could look really cool. Maybe I'll do another video on that. But we'll see you guys next time. I think that was really good.